Hey y'all, what's going on? I apologize for coming on so late tonight, but had a interesting day. And if you know anything about me, when I am working through some things, uh, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I can get a little distracted by um, just trying to hear, trying to make sure that I am, because I don't want to miss anything. I enjoy that I get the opportunity to come on here and, clown around. But I have an assignment on my life that requires me to have times of quiet um, so that I can focus and hear. And so um, I spent most of my day just sort of in a quiet, meditative place before the Lord. And I'm working on something right now, trying to alleviate what is going on with. I've got a little bit of a delay here, I think. So give me one moment while I try to clear that up, and we'll get moving. But as I was saying, good evening, Minister Kamisha. How are you, love? Um, but we have, just it's been a day. It's been a day. It's been a week. It's been a 2 weeks. Can we say that? But I thank the Lord that He is in control of it all. So I just I'm just at a place where I'm just trying to hear what I'm supposed to hear about it. We unfortunately today received news of the passing of dear sweet loved one of our sisters from church, and she's it's been on her family's been on my heart all day. Been in prayer for them. Sister Rosemary, she was one of my soprano sisters, and so but just a dear sweet woman, and we're going to miss her spirit greatly. But she was a believer in Yeshua, so I know I know that we'll see one another again. So, but my heart does go out to her daughters, whom she loved very, very much. I love them very much as well. So, if you are a person of prayer, if you think about it this week, if you can just lift the daughters, Rosemary, Brittany, and Mayera, um, two really sweet young ladies who love their mama too. So just if you get time to pray, if you are a person of prayer, lift. I ask that you lift our sisters up during this time. But opened up the day with that news, and it's just been kind of busy trying to get ready to get back to work after some medical things going on with my own family. Coming off quarantine, going to get tested, trying to get the house and everything situated and laid out. We got a chance to do a video call with my granny tonight. She's just a miracle. 102 years old in the hospital with pneumonia, and she's fighting like a champ. And it was a blessing to get a chance to see her. But it's been a week, and so I wasn't even sure if I was going to come on tonight, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna laugh myself to sleep tonight, because despite all the things that we're dealing with this week, I think it's important for us to always maintain our joy. Amen. Glory to God. I know this ain't uh, Christ is our culture, but now this ain't my church channel, but we get singing over here too. So I think it's important for us to use the things that the Father has given us, and laughter is definitely one of those things. And sharing information is one of those things as well. And so I've got a few little news topics I'm going to jump through real quick, and then I'm going to get off of here because, again, um, depending on, whether or not I get all of my results and everything in a timely manner. Tomorrow will be my first day back at work in a few weeks, and you know, there you have it. But so just to go on ahead and jump right in, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Amen, Minister Clemisha. I'm so grateful that we all have each other. There's nothing like um having people who understand things the way you understand them, who worship the way you worship, who praise the way you praise, who pray the way you pray, who mourn the way you mourn. Like I said, we're going to miss our dear sister, but we know that her hope was in Christ. And we encourage everybody towards that relationship so that you know where your eternity is secured. Um, it's important. It's important. It's important to me to at least make sure that you know that there is a necessity that your life be hidden in Christ, because ultimately, as the Bible tells us, we all sin, we fall short daily, and there's only one resolution, and it's not, the shedding of blood through animals. In Hebrews, it lets us know that was an insufficient sacrifice, because you had to keep coming back and keep coming back, because the heart of man wasn't changed concerning sin. And despite laws and directives and statutes and commandments that told us what to do, man chose other ways. And so, for a more perfect sacrifice, the Father gave us his Son, his only begotten Son, born of a virgin, crucified and buried, third day rose from the dead. He ascended into heaven, seated at the right hand of God, the Father Almighty. And from henceforth he will come to judge the quick and the dead, and will change our bodies, making us become his glorified sons and daughters. So I praise the Lord that he is definitely real in my life, and I encourage you to hide yourself in him, and follow his word to the best of your ability, repenting of the things you need to let go of, and pressing into the things that you need to press into. Because if there's nothing else, we're seeing more now, probably than ever, because it just seems like there's so much loss and challenges and struggles going on around everywhere. And so it's important, I believe, you make sure you have life insurance before you leave this earth, but two, also that you know for certain that you have settled your account, and that you're covered by the blood of Christ. That's my commercial. You're gonna get some of that, because I can't separate out who I am. So it is what it is. But thank you all for joining us tonight. We're gonna run through a few topics here tonight, because it's been an eventful evening, and I think some of it is pretty interesting. So I invite you to join us in the comment section, and join us if you catch this on the replay. I thank you for watching, and I ask you to share it with your friends, because we are building a movement here where we're having some discussion on real topics that are happening in the world, looking at them from all perspectives. Some things are funny and some things are sad. We're going to talk about it all. So here we go. Our first topic, we will ask you, look, we're praying for Queen Elizabeth. The Queen Mother ain't a young princess pup out here anymore. And says she's currently resting at Windsor Castle, where she stayed actually since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. Can you imagine quarantining in a castle? Can you imagine being the queen and quarantining in the castle? But there were stories that the queen have been seen using her cane, and she's actually the longest reigning monarch that Britain has had. She's been on the throne for 70 years. And so she's actually been given some medical advice to rest. She has some trips and things planned. They said she's in good spirits. And I was talking with a friend of mine earlier, Prophet Sonia. You all know her. She's one of our neighbors that drops in all the time. Um, Given that she, lost her husband this year, as well as the fallout between her grandson and the royal family. And I know, they say you're not supposed to have preferences. If you have multiple kids, you're not supposed to have preferences, but it's clear she had a special something for Prince Harry. And so for there to be that rift in the family at the same time that she's in the season of losing her husband, just your heart goes out to them. I know, Britain is some colonizers and they're responsible for some of the biggest ills in the world, particularly those on Black people. African nations suffered greatly under the colonization. And so we don't forget the racism of it all. But in spite of it all, humanity, heart to heart, we do lift up prayers for her, that she follows the wisdom she's been given. Because it's one thing to let a job work you to death and it's meaningful. She don't have no power. She's a figurehead. So I'll be doggone if I'm gonna let being a figurehead run me to the grave. So we're praying for the queen, and we hope that times get better in her physical health, and also that there's some resolution, some growth and maturity going on in that relationship with her beloved grandson. Because I don't know if you see pictures of them, just their interactions. I don't doubt that she loves all of her grandkids, but she and Harry just have a more playful type relationship. I jokingly called him her boyfriend. She had her husband, who she was very formal with at all times because she's always appropriate out in public. But Harry just seemed to be the one who could get her to smile and seem to relax a little bit, regardless of where they were and what they were doing. And I don't know about you, but I love the people who help me enjoy life. I know everybody has, so you've got so many responsibilities. And when I think about my relationship with my son and just the way that he helps me enjoy life, because we're able to laugh at some of the same things. We've got the same weird humor. It's. I pray that everybody has that in their life, that they have someone who is exactly he literally. I believe that that's who he is to her. And so I imagine at the time that she's lost her husband, to also have that favored child not right there with you. So we pray for her. We hope that things turn around for her and her health. Um, she's worked a long time. 70 years seems, I have always said jokingly, I don't think she's gonna take a rest from that seat as long as Charles is walking around here. I don't think she wants Charles to be king. So I don't believe. I think they would have to force her to resign. I don't think that she would willingly go anywhere as long as Charles is out here as a viable candidate for king. I think she going, if she got to drag herself in there for the rest of her life, she will. Um, but I don't think, because if that was the case, it seems like she would have long ago turned things over into his hands. I think I think that it's gonna be something. But yeah, sis, it's definitely a blessing when you have, that relationship, with your children or a relative or someone. But I think everybody has to have that person in their life that, just helps them truly enjoy life. I know. I feel you on that one. I feel you on that one. Yes. Because the things that your kids will say, it blows you away, especially when you start to hear yourself. There's two places that I loved in being a mom, and one of those was when you're teaching your kids something and you hear them learn it. Not talking about like school stuff or anything like that, but like life stuff, and you're teaching them, and you see them learning, how to interact with the world, and it's from something that you taught them. But then the other side is when you begin to see the you in them, but also their unique spin, their unique touch on who they're going to be. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the joys I think that you get as a parent. Um, and I pray that everybody gets the opportunity to have a positive influence on a young person's life, because it's something when you see them do something on their own, it's great. But when you see that they're listening, because so many times, especially with our young kids, sometimes it just seems like they're not paying attention, and it's actually they're smarter than we were, and they're able to focus better than we were. And so there will be many times when you don't think they're looking, you don't think they're listening, you don't think they're paying attention. But if you ask a question, you will find they did not miss anything that you said. Um, it's always, I loved when we would have those times when we had um, this last generation of kids that we had at church, who it would seem like they weren't paying attention, but man, they could mimic every single body. They knew how you preached, they knew how you shouted, they knew everything. And it's this generation of kids, we were the kinds who look at me when I'm talking to you. This generation of kids can be totally engulfed in their phone, but they hear everything you said and they see everything you said. And I think they require a different level of authenticity than we did. A lot of us heard the do as I say and not as I do. And these kids don't mind saying, I know you said, but I see you doing this. So what you want me to do? And I love it. I love the spirit of this generation. I know there's some things that people fuss about millennials and the next generation behind them, but I'm actually fascinated by it. I'm blessed to be in a situation being a Gen Xer where we're the next generation of old people. I love kind of being on the outside of all of that discussion and have the opportunity to embrace the good part of millennials. And one of the things is they are swift to speak their minds, and they will call you. They have a different requirement for justice than we did. We understood things weren't going to be fair. Them, on the other hand, they don't understand. They don't fool with it. So we continually lift them in prayer as well, because they've got a long way to go. But I love the spirit of this generation of young people. I think it's going to be exciting. I can't wait. I can wait, granted, because I want to be here to see it. But I'm looking forward to, our young people getting older and inhabiting new roles in their lives, becoming husbands and wives, and you know, being in charge of things and captaining their own lives and being a productive part of humanity. Earning a living, producing art. One of the things I love for my son, with him being a musician, is him having the opportunity to to have his sound manifest in the earth, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I hope that everyone gets the opportunity to see their children be amazing, because it seems like they're going to be little bitties forever, but that time goes by so fast, and before you know it, um, they're supporting you. My 3-year-old nephew already, somehow or the other, already knows like the older women in the family. Like we were out to eat one night, and he was holding his mom's hand. He was standing by the side of the thing, and he was holding his mom's hand, and he shook loose from her hand, and he said, "Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, TT, wait a minute." And I was coming down the stair. I was coming. It was just one step, but he was like, "Wait a minute, wait for me, wait for me." And he left her, and he came over. I'm thinking he just wanted to sit with me and hold my hand. No, he put his hand on my back, and he started helping me down the stair. That just, I was like, "What is going on?" And he held my arm until we made it to the car. I was blown away. I'm like, what is he doing? How does he know to do this? But they're interesting. They're interesting, and I think it's important for us to look out for them, especially based on the next story I want us to look at. I think it's important for us to really be connecting with, watching them as they grow, and seeing how they're forming into just the people that they're going to be in their lives, and that we really work. I don't shaping, yes, I think is necessary for us to do, but also be on the watch when you see something that doesn't look quite right, because this generation, as much as they are, they're going to speak their minds, and they're going to take action. That's true, positive and negative, because you see a lot of impulsive behavior and not thinking decisions through sometimes before they're ready to act, and they just ready to go for it. And so it's important, I think, that we just be mindful, um, that we help our young people when we see them, we see that struggle, to do right and to be right. And one of the things that we're seeing now is, whether it's a result of bullying, whether it's a result of abuse, whether it's the result of some underlying unseen mental health condition, we are seeing kids taking guns and a lot of gun violence with our young people. And one of the things that one of the stories that I looked at for tonight was the story about the Parkland shooter. I won't mention his name, but if you remember, back in 2018, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida was the scene where 14 students and 3 staff members were gunned down by a young man, and he's currently standing trial. And they're actually at the phase of selecting a jury to determine whether or not he will receive the death penalty or life in prison. He did plead guilty, and he did, express remorse and regret. He hated that he did it and those kind of things. And he was even saying that he believed the victims, those who were the victims of the shooting, should be the people who get to determine whether he gets life or whether he loses his life, whether he will spend the rest of his life in prison or whether he gets the death penalty. And so that portion of the proceeding should be going forth. But where if you follow the story at all, you know that uh, I personally thought somewhere along the way, there would be a plea of not guilty, and we would have some understanding of, underlying if the young man was dealing with and things like that. So I was taken by surprise when the judge asked him to enter his plea, and he pled guilty. Um, so just keep the survivors of that situation in prayer. Keep the Parkland community in prayer. because one of the difficult things about trials is when you're going through those trials, you're having to relive those tough days. You're having to, the parents of the children who were injured, as well as the parents of the children who lost their lives, having to, real time go back and look at those situations. And in the news story that I saw, one of the parents actually, had to sit there and find out real time the events that led up to his son being killed. And he said, because he never got the details of the shooting, he simply knew that his son was one of the kids who was killed. And it turns out, he was shot once. And I guess because he didn't die from that shot, he ended up being shot several more times after that first shooting. So, um, you know, think about that as a parent, to know that, had your child been able to get away or get cover, if they had, you know, even, taken the shooter down, got him subdued earlier, got him out of the building earlier, the possibilities that were there. So during the course of this trial, those parents are having to relive those situations and deal with the what ifs. And so, because he's pled guilty, that will keep them from having to go through, I think, a bunch of appeals and having to relive the trauma all over again so many times. For hopefully this will be the only time that they have to deal with it publicly. We know that, they're always going to miss their children, probably for the rest of forever. They're going to deal with things behind the scenes and in their own private way, have to learn how to move on with their lives. But to have to deal with it publicly during a trial, it just seems a lot more weighty, because you've got the news story, you got the media talking about it, you're stirring conversation, new conversations, and all of that. So just have the Parkland community in prayer, because they are going to be experiencing, some interesting seasons while that trial is underway. And because the big deal of it is, and when you think about it, whether he receives life in prison or whether he's, killed, um, for the murders that he agrees he committed and understands why he's on trial, and that he is, he could potentially die. Um, it's just, it's a hard thing for the community to have to deal with again. So um, be watching for updates on that situation. We are also dealing with some situations here in America, and as you know, right now there is a big budget fight going on, and President Joe Biden said he's finally getting involved. There have been calls for him to involve himself. There's been a lot of criticism. He should get involved and make it happen. And I guess I appreciate that he's allowed, the debate to go on and on, where the Democrats are really trying to figure out what kind of a party they're going to be. Where you have a very what they call progressive bunch that's really been pushing for a lot of updates in social services. And that's one thing that I'm really hoping that we are able to do. Is I think it is necessary for us to really to start to update some services, because I know I work in social services, and so I won't publicly criticize the process, but I will simply say that there are some things, as far as, the amount of assistance that a family, has to live on when they're receiving public assistance. All of those are things that definitely need to be looked at, because the cost of living has definitely changed since those programs were instituted. However, a lot of the amounts of those benefits are not there. So, we definitely need improvement with service delivery on the front lines, with making sure that people who need access to services can actually access them, and that they have the support that they need. But Joe Biden has gotten in, he's made some adjustments, largely around increasing tax rates for corporations and those wealth taxes that they talk about, which is taxes on money that you inherited that you didn't earn. There's already a pretty steep tax on that. And I was looking at like the corporate rates. But one of the things that President Biden is concerned about is these major corporations that, because of loopholes in the system, they're actually able to get away with making billions of dollars and paying no taxes. And so I'm excited that somebody's looking at that, because as a working individual, when I look at, what I pay in taxes, it's like, wow, um, it's a little disturbing. But then you look and see that, like you said, if you have the know-how and the accountants who know the tricks, the lawyers who understand the loopholes, you can be out here making billions of dollars and paying very, very little in taxes. But then you also have some who, if they're walking the straight and narrow, some of them are earning, $450,000 is the threshold on it. But some of them, their tax rates are like 37%, 39%. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I'm not yet a millionaire. Not yet. But I want them to have some of that stuff figured out by the time I start to tap into my millions. Right. That's definitely a thing that has to be looked at is, will Social Security be available as, our populations continue to age? But what some of the things that I found interesting that they are looking at is that there's at least $500 billion to battle climate change. And if you've been enjoying these summery weather days we're having in October, I don't know what we can do. I don't know if it's possible to rein it in, but if there are things that we can do to figure out, why, for those who don't believe global warming is a thing, yes, global warming is the reason why you're having the weather that we're having, the storms that we're having, the the cold winters that we're having, despite what President Trump, told us. Yes, even though it is still getting cold, global warming is actually impacting even how we experience cold weather. The weather's way out of balance. It was it was a beautiful day outside. I thank the Lord that we had the day that we had today, because it was absolutely beautiful and it was a great exchange from all of the other things that I was dealing with, and allowed me to get some stuff done out in the yard and all of that. But to be able to be outside with short sleeves on in October in St. Louis, no. So there's $500 billion out there to battle climate change. There's $350 billion for childcare subsidies and free pre-kindergarten. There's a new federal program that they're proposing that offers at least 4 weeks of paid family leave. Now, you may say, we already have FMLA. Why do we need that? FMLA doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be paid while you're off. What FMLA does is FMLA protects your position if you have to be out, whether you're able to be paid or not due to some family medical situations, but also if you've got a loved one deploying overseas in the military, being called into active duty. FMLA does provide some protections for those kind of things, adopting a child, a health issue for a family, for a family person. But while it protects your job, it does not necessarily ensure that you're going to be paid. Well, the 4 weeks of paid family leave that they're talking about would secure your paycheck for you during that time. They're requesting a 1-year extension on the monthly child tax credits that went in place during the COVID-19 crisis, funding for healthcare and providing funding for healthcare provided through ACA, Obamacare, and Medicare. Some of the things that are probably falling out of the plan now, plans for tuition-free community college, which I was hopeful for that, but I don't think that's dead. It may not happen this time around, but I love that it's the will of the people to ensure that those that want to get and education, that they have access to be able to do it. And then a path to permanent legal status for certain immigrants in the U.S., and then that clean energy plan that was the centerpiece for Biden's strategy for fighting climate change. And, a lot of those who are, more progressive, they're definitely, not believing that they're out of the fight on those issues. But, it does look like some of those are going to be able to be scaled back. And man, they have been, look, and there's the problem, sis, with this, with global warming and the way that it's throwing the weather patterns off, is eventually it is going to hit our food chain, our food supply. It's definitely there's no way these warm temperatures that we're having now, while they may be good for farmers who are harvesting, for farmers who are planting, and who kind of count on snow to water the grounds, who count on those cooler temperatures, that are productive for their crops. Yeah, I don't know what this is going to do. And think about these bionic mosquitoes we had this year. I think a lot of that has a lot to do with some of the excessive rainfall that we've been getting. I don't know, in your area, we've been talking about it over here. I'm like, are we literally experiencing the plagues of the Bible? Why are flies everywhere? They're super aggressive. They're like menacing. It's crazy. The bugs and all of that, and even some of the wildlife that we're seeing because of flooding. We're seeing, well, we've always had wild turkeys in our area, but we've been seeing coyotes, foxes, wolves. It's like, is that a dog or is that a wolf? We don't know. So, yeah, climate change is having some major impact on us. And I know people want to, play it off. And like I said, I enjoyed the good weather we had today too, but we have to realize that it's unseasonal. It's not, this is not what should be happening for us right now. Yeah, there's been coyotes in North St. Louis, and I just think a lot of it has to do with the wilderness areas where they normally would be roaming. There's new construction projects that are driving the wildlife out into other areas, but there's also flooding. I know in our area there's a big park near us, Frank Holton Park, that's full of ponds and lakes, and the water is so high. Like I said, I've been home for the last few weeks, but I haven't had a chance to see how the Mississippi is looking. Um, yeah, those black bears in Missouri, and it's amazing to me. They look so cute and cuddly as they're toddling around the countryside, but they're very dangerous. They're very dangerous. But yeah, they've okayed hunting those black bears in Missouri, because they will, rip you to shreds. Don't play. That's not Winnie the Pooh. That bear will tear your insides out. But we're seeing the wildlife being pushed into, they call it harvesting. Yeah, that wildlife is being pushed into, communities where people are living because they got to go somewhere. Been seeing a lot of deer along the, roadsides as you come and go. We're in a real interesting time here in America, and I think we have a responsibility as a leader in the world, to really prioritize some things. And I think, caring for our next generation of our children by, ensuring that parents have, money to live on, have enough to provide, for their families, I think is really key. And so the fact that they're looking at, requiring the government to take some action that's going to actually help the middle income people that they, pimp so hard during elections, to see it be important, is good. And so there's also some bills out there to improve highways and roads. And if you've been driving around, this weather is even being hard on the roads. in the bridges, and we're seeing a lot of potholes, uneven roads, seeing a lot of sinkhole looking type situations too. And a lot of that is tied to the temperature of the earth. Hey, look, them bears are not Smokey the Bear. They definitely are not. So, um, sis, you say that, and I was watching. There's older lady that I watch on here. Her name is, oh, I can't think of her name right now, but she's from Alabama, and she showed how to make some pepper sauce the other day. And I was like, I would really love, I actually signed up. I signed up for a webinar on canning. I missed it, but if it comes up again, I'll share it with you. But it's definitely something I've seriously been thinking about. And she explained, but in talking about making the pepper sauce, she walked you through how to preserve how to preserve food in jars, and she showed just how simple the process was. Like I said, she was just making some simple pickle sauce, pepper sauce that didn't necessarily need to be preserved, but she walked you through how to, boil the jars, and, you're boiling the tops so that you can melt that wax so that it can seal on. And she went through that whole process, and I love her, because she always brings the Lord in, when she's talking while she's cooking. And this morning she made some biscuits that looked so beautiful. And I was like, oh, bread is not my friend, but those biscuits look so beautiful. But I definitely have seriously been thinking about picking up, maybe getting a book or something and learning, if I can't find a class or connect with somebody who knows how, and have them show me. But that's definitely something that I've been considering. And I think it's something that we should consider given the times that we saw. We saw how America goes crazy when there's issues with supply chain, and the trucking companies can't get people, the stores, Walgreens. There was a store near us we were visiting. We're like, man, the shelves are so empty. And it was like the guy said, well, no, it's not delivery for us. Delivery is not the problem. We can't hire enough people to empty the trucks. He said, we just, the people we hire can't come to work because they got issues, and people are sick. Their kids are sick. Kids got issues with school. And they were saying it's just been hard to keep the store stocked. He said, we have the inventory in the back. Hold on, I'll go get it for you. He said, but we just don't have the people to stock the shelves the way we used to. So, I've been seeing restaurants, a lot of the fast food restaurants. You will see, some time ago, especially McDonald's was real bad at this, where they opened two lines for the drive-through, and you're seeing a lot of places where, because of staffing, they'll shut down one of those lines, or they'll totally, even though the inside is open, since a lot of the COVID restrictions have been lifted, but yeah, yeah, a lot of the restrictions have been lifted, but they'll have, nothing but the drive-through open because they simply can't man the inside and the outside because they just don't have enough people. And so we see how America handles tough times. I think that this quarantine showed us a lot of stuff about the areas where we're not prepared, and that's one that I think we definitely need to look at. We've relied on canned goods, but I think that I definitely intend to learn some preserving, and then, either start gardening. Now that it's been, because we had cats in our yard, I've just been nervous about gardening in our backyard until we know that that soil has turned over. So it's been a few years now that we haven't had an animal in that backyard. I'm trying to think when we got rid of the dog, but there's the whole other. He was restricted to a certain area in the backyard. He didn't have full reign, but there is an area that gets pretty good sun where I may venture back into doing some gardening. But you're absolutely correct, right, sis. There's cargo sitting in the ocean. There's ships that they can't get they can't get to dock, and get them emptied off. There's trucks that everywhere you see signs that they're hiring, truck drivers. If you have a CDL, we need you. If you could drive a truck and stock a shelf, we need you. But our president has told us, we sick of all of this. Y'all get this worked out. These are the changes we're going to make. And in the bill, can you all please sit down and come together and work some things out? So we'll keep our eyes on that, because I think that's a story that we're going to be talking about for some time, especially climate change things. If this early season here in fall has been any indication of the weird weather that we're having, I think we're going to see much more of that to come. So, but speaking of employees doing weird things, there's been a couple of stories recently of these of very wealthy athletes making good money, not working Joes, making really good money, but they are out here frauding systems. And today, wow, the city of St. Louis is hiring waste management workers with a $3,000 bonus. Yeah. The city's been trying some the city's been trying some different tactics to get people to come and apply for these jobs. It's been interesting, because I know they had my interest for a while. It's like, look, I got a little bit of time before I go on to retirement from where I am. Still making plans for my second act when I'm done with that. Um, but um, but yeah, it's an interesting job market out here, and it's so crazy. The revelation that I got um, when I was looking at some news stories about this hiring stuff, and it's like this. Yeah, the city just had a job fair. The post office just had a job fair. And one of the things they've been doing on site, not just interviewing, on site hiring. If you apply for the job and meet the qualifications, they are hiring on the spot because they just don't have enough workers. And it was so weird. I was talking about that with my sister, and just got just interesting revelation that many times there have been jobs and careers that we've attempted to get into. And in previous seasons, we've gotten a no. This might be the season to go back and try it again, because now the job that turned you down needs you. The job that turned you down because they had other people they were willing to look at, now you're in demand. And so those places that said no in the past, this might not be a bad season to go back, because they're looking for you. They're looking for people who just want to work. And I remember my the night my niece graduated from high school. Yeah, they're desperate now. They're desperate now, and they're looking for they're willing to overlook some things now, that in the past maybe they weren't, because the job market was so hot. But now that things are a little strained, this may be the season to get your foot in some doors that previously were closed, because they have a different need now. So I'm encouraging everybody, if there's an area that you've been interested in working in, and you've tried before and not been able to get through that door, I'm going to say go knock on that door again, because there's a different need in the land. Um, you think about um, stories where the Lord protected his people while everybody else was dealing with some pretty harsh consequences, that this very well could be a season. Come on now, preach that. That door open that no man can shut. They need you. You are in demand. Your work ethic is in demand. The fact that you don't quit, the fact that you will work hard, the fact that you're not afraid of a hard day's work, the fact that you're resilient and will go back and try again. Those skills put you in high demand. That you got favor on your life. It puts you're in demand right now because they're looking for you. So um, it's definitely a season of second chances. Amen. But what we've been finding out here is these stories that have been getting posted is these athletes that have gotten caught doing some crazy things. And the one in particular that I found out about today was a gentleman by the name of Kimbrell Tompkins. He pleaded guilty in a scheme to fraudulently obtain COVID-19 unemployment insurance benefits from the state of California. And according to Associated Press, Tompkins entered a guilty plea on one count of unauthorized access device fraud and one count of aggravated identity theft in a federal court in Miami on Monday. Um, Tompkins used stolen identities of Florida residents to apply for COVID-19 unemployment benefits in California. The state approved the applications and sent $300,000 in benefits in the form of debit cards to South Florida addresses that he had set up. According to the report, around $230,000 of these funds were withdrawn from ATMs across South Florida. The benefits were part of the COVID aid relief and economic, the CARES Act, that was passed by Congress. The bill's intent was to help people and businesses during the financial downturn. This gentleman is 33 years old, played 3 seasons in the NFL with the Jets, the Patriots, and the Raiders, where he earned $1.4 million as an NFL player. Um, Along with his issue, we also saw that there were some basketball players that were charged with frauding their medical plan, claiming to have had medical procedures done that they had not had done. And it's like a $4 million scheme that they're involved in. And then in September, there were a couple of other football players who pled guilty to defrauding a league healthcare plan. And so I don't know. It's just sometimes with lust of the eye and lust of the flesh, the pride of life puts you in a situation where you're never satisfied. That you're just it's how much more did you need? Um, it's I can't imagine over a 3-year period making $1 million, $1.4 million. And so many times, if your love is the money, you'll do, if you're worshiping mammon, you'll do what it takes to make sure that you have plenty, or that it looks like you have plenty. And so many times people celebrate people who appear to have it all, oh, how they spend money, and um yeah, how they spend money, and they have these cars, and they dress like this, and they go to this place, and they're in the nightclubs, and talking about being at strip clubs, throwing money at people. Like, that's a mindset I can't understand. But you're right, sis. When you come from a place of not having enough, and you learned, I learned very quickly working where I've been blessed to work 20 plus years, 25 years now, that when people are in desperate situations, they do desperate things. But what we see a lot of times is people who are accustomed to robbing Peter to pay Paul. I don't know where that phrase came from. Maybe for next week, I'm going to look that up, where robbing Peter to pay Paul came from. Because poor Peter, he'd been getting robbed a long time. But anyway, but if the mindset hasn't changed, no matter how much you have, it's not going to be enough, and you're going to have more, and you're going to have more, and you're going to have more. And so that's why I tell people, if you've got a talented and gifted child, at a young age, you've got to teach them the benefit of working hard and being content with what life comes to them as a result of the work they're willing to do. Um, I didn't raise my son on labels and brands. He's like his mama. We love nice things, but they don't make us. I'm not. I don't stand in danger. I like to think that even if I could afford them, some of these like $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 tennis shoes, and you know, $200 and $300 hoodies, and just to have a name on it, just to say, just I mean, just to say that you have this expensive thing that has no value once you've worn it, has very little value once you've worn it. I remember looking at, there was a picture of this guy. He's a worship leader. He was in prayer. He's on stage in front of an audience and he's in worship, and his shoes are bent because he's down in worship. And somebody made a point in the picture of, man, he just killed those shoes because he was cracking the leather. And it was just like, and there was just so much conversation about, man, those are $1,500 shoes. Now he can jack those up. He'll never even be able to resell them or what. And I'm like, wait, we out here buying shoes to resell them? Yeah. And that was such a crisis. I know when I was a teenager, I think it was really at its height when I was a teenager, and I'm a good bit ahead. I'm a good number of years before you became a teenager, and it was during that time when people really began idolizing that drug dealer lifestyle of excess and having a lot, and you couldn't tell the difference between someone who was very successful and someone who was out here working the streets. It didn't matter what you did, but the goal was to look like you had many times what you really didn't have. But some who really did have, but it was gotten through illegal means. But that was about the time when kids started getting shot over stepping on tennis shoes. You leave a scuff mark on my shoe, I gotta kill you. One, because I ain't no punk, and two, because you done damaged my shoes that I paid an arm and a leg for. And we're going through, we're still in it, I think, times when we value our stuff and things over the life of another human being. So I think it's important, especially if you got a child that's gifted and talented in any way, and it looks like they're really going to be productive. But I think it works even if you just got a child who just does what they're asked to do, and they're meeting the expectations, and their goal is to eventually be a husband, a wife, whatever. That we give them a healthy grounding, and that they understand how to be content with what they're willing to earn with their two hands. If they're not, needing to take from anybody in order to have, because your freedom is worth more than anything. Um, and it's hard in this time because it's so important to the young people to wear this label, dress like this singer, wear this shoe because it came out. And I remember there being a season when there was some athletes who purposefully produced a less expensive shoe because so that kids who weren't wealthy and didn't have parents that were willing to spend $200 and $300 on a pair of shoes they're going to wear for 6 months at a time because their feet grow so fast. And I remember that, but I don't think it ever caught on. I don't think it ever caught on. Um, so yeah, but I found it interesting, especially that young man was a patriot, because I cheating and robbing and stealing is the patriot way. So, but I can't totally blame him on the Patriots because they said he played for some other teams that I do like. So, you know, but hopefully that situation will get worked out for him, favorably or not. it is clearly time to pay the piper. So, one of the other things that we saw was a story about these pig kidneys. Apparently, they've been successful in transplanting a pig kidney. And here's the thing, that's going to be really interesting because we know that there's so many people that are in need of kidneys because of dialysis, prevalence of diabetes, wearing out people's kidneys. We there's a great need for kidneys, and our kidney transplants are really something. I was watching an episode of Grey's Anatomy recently, and in the episode, there's a young Black woman who needs a kidney. And based on some of the factors that they used to determine whether or not she was eligible to even go on the transplant list, it was interesting to see how there are these different risk factors that go into place. And apparently, um, some of them are racially triggered, and in effect, it made the lady totally ineligible for a kidney transplant. And what happened was, fortunately, she had a doctor who was aggressive about pursuing her being eligible to get this kidney. But and so knowing that, especially that kidney transplants are really high demand situation, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with and how readily people are able to accept this kind of a transplant. Because in many cultures, the pig is the height of filth, but the possibilities, it seems, are out here for them to do this. But it says, according to Science Alert, says when we say successfully, it's only tested for 54 hours in a human patient, and it was in a patient who was already brain dead, being kept alive artificially. But the transplant of the kidney connected and was functioning normally. Um, According to some of the data in the story, an average of 17 people die on transplant waiting lists every day. Every day. And so this research out here to find these animal organs are a whole other way. And I mean, here's the problem. It opens up so much opportunity for exploitation. And I know that, we were given dominion over the earth, that we were, we were given dominion over animals, over the wildlife. But it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Is there so many cultural situations where certain animals, like if I don't eat pork, I don't know if I want a pig kidney, you know, or do I? Yeah. The heart valve, I think they have been using for some time, either cow or pig, one of the two. But it's an interesting area to even think that this kind of research is out here being done. That it's gonna be interesting to see how this goes. And so, as they said, fortunately, this surgery was not done on a live person. This was done on someone who was already brain dead. But the fact that it worked, definitely is going to open conversation. And then we start looking at ethics. Is it ethical to do? How do we ensure that they're not, raising these pigs and slaughtering them? Right. Exactly, sis. In someone who was already dead. But how do we make sure, that that the animals aren't being mistreated, and are they being raised just to take their kidneys? I mean, there's so many things that come into play ethically in knowing that, yeah, we can do a thing, but is this something we should do? Is I think another thing that comes into play, because in America, well, I think it's spread to the world, but we know in America, if there's a dollar behind it, trust and believe we're going to find a way to capitalize on it and make it extremely profitable. We're going to find a way to make an excessive amount of money, no matter how harmful it is to the environment. And I don't know if you remember when we watched that Forks Over Knives um, documentary at church, when they talked about the issues with the pig farms. It was environmentally the bigger issue was, aside from all of the health issues with pork and um, you know um, high blood pressure in the Black community and all of those things. The environmental effect of those pig farms was overwhelming, and those people that lived in those areas around those big super manufacturers, I'll call them because I can't think of another word, but the effects on the health of the people around them, because those that lived near those pig slaughterhouses were experiencing, higher levels of cancer. They were experiencing all kinds of medical implications from living around those pig farms. And of course, these pig farms are positioned right around Black neighborhoods, neighborhoods where the people were poor, didn't have a lot of resources, and there was not very good regulation on what they were doing to the groundwater in the area. They were dumping things in places that was affecting the water, affecting the ground, affecting the air quality, everything. And so there's a lot, I think, that once we get away even from looking at the creepiness of using this pig kidney in a human being, and what that opens up for us ethically, medically, there's also other consequences that we don't think about. And as I said, in America, we're gonna find a way to exploit it. And so while we're on the topic of exploitation, there was recently an agreement between the NFL and the retired players to end race-based adjustments in dementia testing. And ultimately, what this means is, when the NFL agreed to start exploring the impacts of playing football and brain injuries and the kinds of illnesses that were happening to people, there it's crazy. One of the things that was put in place, and again, the people agreed to it when it happened, and now they've come to an agreement that they shouldn't be using those race-based adjustments. But basically what they did was they made an adjustment in determining the effect of football injuries on the person. It's called race norming. And what they did was they took into account the person's personal background. And in effect, what they were saying was Black players showed up at the NFL already with some impacts because of their lifestyle and because of their background. And they wanted to account for that through cognitive testing, all of those different things. And what was happening was that race norming was causing Black applicants who would apply for assistance with their medical issues and would apply for a payout from the settlement. It would cause the Black players, who make up over 70% of active players and over 60% of living retirees. But what was happening was the Blacks were getting approved at a lower rate because the way that they were scoring the testing said, well, if you came from a poor background, your cognitive function was already impacted by how you grew up. So you may have been abused, you may have been malnourished, you may have been whatever effect growing up in poverty and crime and violence might have had on your life. It you already showed up with some issues. And so to account for that, it's more difficult for you to qualify to prove that football was the reason that you were jacked up in the head. So finally, here we are in 2021 getting an agreement that they're going to remove those race-based adjustments and make it more even for both black and white players to be able to be approved for this. It said initially some of those things were put in place because they had concerns over just too generously paying out money because they thought that the money would run out. So they created all of these really weird ways of testing and scoring whether or not a person was eligible. And my thing is, who in the world was the person who agreed originally and set up the testing that said, because I come from a poor background and because I may have been involved in fighting, or I may have been involved in, playing football in Corey League in a poorer environment where maybe my equipment wasn't as good. So who's to say my injuries came while I was playing in the NFL? What if this happened while I was playing Pop Warner and didn't have proper head covering? And so who's to say it happened when I came into the NFL? We can't totally blame the NFL for it. That's hogwash. It never should have been there. It never should have been there. But it's always interesting to me that if there's a way to exclude black people and make it more difficult, we're gonna find a way to make it happen. And in such a subtle way for them to be able to have done that for years, where these players who their brain injuries were a result of making the NFL exciting to watch. I remember it was a different era back then. Now you can barely tap a player. But when I was growing up and really, loving, developing a love for football, these boys were out here slinging each other by the collars. What's an illegal hold? I remember safety that played for the Cowboys, Roy Williams, and he used to do what they would call a horse collar, where he was strong enough to grab the player by the neck and whip them back around to tackle them. And it's like, yeah, all of those things made football exciting. All those hard hits, head to head combat, it made football exciting and made some people a lot of money. But we're seeing years later that those players were affected by the multiple concussions that they had. You were a tough guy if you just shook it off and kept on playing. And so many of those older players, that's their testimony. They played when they couldn't see. I remember in the movie Any Given Sunday, there's this player who he's in danger of these life-threatening illnesses, but he's on the verge of a bonus in his contract if he's able to accomplish a certain thing. And it sort of gave you some insight on why these players were willing to put their bodies on the line. Yeah, when they were grabbing folks by the back of the helmet. All of those kinds of things. Yeah, it made football exciting, but and those guys, again, because so many of them came from impoverished backgrounds, and they gotta take care of mama and everybody. They trying to take care of the whole family, or just trying to take care of their lavish lifestyles. And the owners would entice them with these interesting things that they add into their contracts, that this many tackles and you get that, this many touchdowns and you get this many yards and you get this. And so many times they put their bodies on the line for some of those incentives, and the end result was they played through concussions, they played through injuries, that now that they're older, they're really seeing that there was a lot of that just repeated injury to the brain, causing some of the behavior that, they just thought, these black football players was just crazy, when in fact some of the behaviors that they were exhibiting were a result of their brains being impacted, literally being treated like gladiators and out there, tackling and putting their bodies on the line. So, fortunately, they're bringing an end to those things. And then there's a super vaccine that they're working on in Japan. It says it can make you safe from 5 strains of COVID, which is really interesting, because I know we were trying to do some research to find out what look exactly says. Are you not entertained when it comes to that football? Absolutely. And those guys put their bodies on the line out there for us. And so, I'm glad that they're looking out for them. As a fan of football, I'm glad that they're looking out for them. But in Japan, they have formulated a vaccine that they're calling a super vaccine. They said that one shot can protect you from 5 different strains of COVID, which is definitely impressive. But one of the things that was really interesting for us was trying to figure out what strain of COVID that had impacted us. And it turns out that they do not share with you what strain you have. They don't share that information with people. I found that to be interesting. I don't know why. It was just something that we found on the CDC website that said, no, we don't release that kind of information to people. So, but it looks like they're continuing to work, where Japan has come up with this. We can do better than what they're doing with all those others. There's 5 strains that we can protect you from. So, mm. And so we are over the hour that I thought we would be here. So I'm gonna quickly just touch these last few stories, because one of the things that I saw is we'll be out here doing the most. And I'm going to see if I can share this picture. And the picture made me laugh. And people had some strong opinions about it. I thought it was funny. And one of the things that, I don't think I can pull it up. Oh, I can't. It won't let me. Oh, well. Oh my gosh, I wish I could get this out. Oh Lord, that is because it is hilarious. Let's see if I make this big. And then I come here and I share the whole screen. Let me show you all something. This picture made me laugh. I could not stop laughing when I saw this picture. This is a picture of young Cardi B and her husband, Mr. Offset. And when I saw this picture, there was a lot of talk about it when people talked about, they just be spending all of this money and they just be doing this and they just going too far. And they are the conversation of a lot of talk, because I know they've been on social media sharing some of the very extravagant gifts that they purchased for their daughter and for each other, and some of the just lavish things that they do. And one of the things that I think sometimes we may be too quick to judge a situation and not really understand, because I don't deal in millions. And so I don't understand the desire to spend a lot of money to look like this. Where she looks like a hammerhead shark and he looks like a homeless ninja. I don't know, I don't have that kind of money. It's funny to me though that It looks like he definitely agreed to wear that outfit, but he does not look happy about it at all. He does not look happy about it at all. And it's just, but here's the thing, when you move in those circles and you're those kind of people, somebody probably paid them to wear those outfits. They probably got a check for wearing those outfits. And I just say, we be out here doing the most. And sometimes I just get a real kick out of it. It makes me laugh. And I'm like, you know what? They are entertainers. Their job is to entertain the people. And they have clearly like dug into it. But I saw that picture and I thought, why? Why? And then I had to stop because I was like, Tracy, you don't know. You can't wear that to work. You couldn't get. I don't know, sis, but I actually liked the jacket that Cardi had on. I really liked the jacket she had on. His outfit I cannot account for because he just had so many wrong things happening. There was so many disappointing decisions in that outfit that he had on. I just, I can't make it make sense. Exactly. I think they're in a situation where they're living their childhood dreams of being peculiar, playing dress up. Exactly. And that's how I see it. Is if your job is to be out in front of people and be the talk of the town and create, buzz around your name. Some people seem to do better at it, and they definitely are two who it looks like lean into it because she's made a few wardrobe decisions that are that just kind of make you go, but as for me, I'm happy anytime that we get to see her and she has clothes on. Um, because I think she's a beautiful young woman, but she just in that quest to be rich and being willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Some terrible things they get into. But in that situation, a child, I think they can put on all the layers they want to, and it makes me laugh. They definitely gave me the laugh I needed. I heard people talking about the outfit, and I was like, let me go see, like, how bad could it have been? And it was bad. You just saw it. It was bad, but it was hilarious. And as bad as it was, I'm probably going to be looking for a newsprint jacket like the one she had on because I really like that jacket. I wouldn't the hat now. Where she's looking like mama hammerhead shark. Yeah, no, I would be passing on that. But I bet you see something like that at a Women's Day program coming up real soon. I bet you that. So, but I found that was funny, and I'm sorry. I think our we're in a situation where sometimes people are out here doing the most. Sometimes it's in a bad way, and sometimes it's in a very hilarious way. And I just hope they keep showing up in them weirdo outfits because that was hilarious to me. On the other extreme of doing the most, my my prayer project, Kanye West has changed his name. He is no longer he's the artist formerly known as Kanye, and he has transitioned to just being called Ye. That's his name. No first name, no middle name, no last name. He has legally changed his name to Ye. And I think it's progress because if you remember a few years ago, he was trying to be Jesus and out here, on stage with depicting crucifixion scenes and all of that kind of stuff. And since that time, he's professing salvation and Even though he's, on the path and on a path to discovering, just what that conversion looks like. He made an interesting decision, and that was to change his name from Kanye West to Ye. And his reasoning, when he was interviewed about it some time back, he said, "I believe Ye is the most commonly used word in the Bible. And in the Bible, it means you. So I'm you, I'm us, it's us." In Swahili, the word Ye means only one. So it's going to be interesting to see. One of the story even reported that he actually intended to name his son, the one that he ultimately ended up naming Psalm, was apparently slated to be called Ye. But he's also apparently opening a private school in Southern California named after his mom, the Donda Academy. It's supposed to be launching classes for up to 60 students from kindergarten to 12th grade. Um, it's going to be, you know, uh, the school will be headed up by Donda Academy education consultant Beulah McLeod, who says prepare students to become the next generation of leaders, thinkers, and innovators by providing them with a world-class education. She's out of Illinois. His mom was in the education field as well. And so we know that that's an area of interest to him, anything that has to do with his mom. And very supportive of educational ventures and things that are happening in St. Louis. Um, I said St. Louis. Let him take some interest in St. Louis, Lord, but in the city of Chicago. So we pray that those ventures are good and not evil. But I think anybody who's looking to open schools and do things to help set our youth up, and I can only imagine being a mildly artistic person having the opportunity to attend a school that's getting its visions from someone who, as kooky as he can be, but extremely creative genius, to be in a school that's headed by somebody who sees the arts and music as important. That would have to be a really cool experience. So kudos to Ye. He's wrong. Ye is not the most commonly used word in the Bible. I haven't looked it up, but I know it's not Ye. We may talk about that on Christ is Our Culture next Sunday. But anywho, so kudos to Ye. My closing story, and I think it's one that is mostly is extremely interesting, is Donald Trump has locked into the truth. Former U.S. President Donald Trump will launch his own social media app called Truth Social that he said would stand up to big tech companies such as Twitter and Facebook and be a place where people can share the truth. Now, in the steps of how to become a tyrant, controlling the media is definitely a major step in how to become a tyrant. So I am concerned and intrigued. I'm sure it will be expensive, but if it's free, here's what I want you to know. I don't like Donald Trump, but I believe you better keep an eye on him. So if Donald Trump's starting a social media platform, I'm going to be there because I want to see what he's talking about. And I think it's always important to develop a little bit of an ear to listen to people who you don't necessarily support, but are influential. And he's definitely influencing a lot of people, even still. Having lost an election, people are still marching and marching, protesting, having fits, and passing out, claiming that Joe Biden's not really the president. I was watching something the other day, man. It's like, yeah, Joe Biden's not really the president. He is. He stole. He stole the election, and we need to do everything we can to get him out of office. So He's definitely someone who has influence with people, and I think it's important for us to keep our eyes on the devil at all times. The Bible tells us to watch and pray. What are we watching? Yes, we're watching for the Lord, but we're also watching because, as the Bible says, we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. It is important, I believe, for us to be mindful of the times because we're headed to a place and we're headed to a time. If you're curious on where we're headed, you can read the book of Revelation. We're going there. If you're thinking whether or not we're at that time, you can look at Matthew 24. Jesus, Yeshua gave us the signs of the time. How you gonna know we at the end? When you see this stuff happening right here. So we're headed to a place. And so I think it's important for us to be paying attention more than ever to the things that are being told to you in the media, to the things that are being told to you in churches, to the things that are being said to you on the streets by the people. What is it that people are believing? What are the stories that people are talking about? And so, in our discussions, I hope not to get a lot into gossip, but I definitely do know that we will be discussing opinions. We will be discussing stories that are in the news because I think it's important for us to keep our eye on everything that we can. We can't watch it all. That's God's job. The Father, He does a great job of being omniscient. But the things that do come across our path and we find interesting and want to know about, I think it's important for us to be on the lookout for them. So I want to encourage you if you have stories that are of interest. Usually, and I forgot to do it, I apologize. Usually, I will include the link in the comments so that if you have an interesting perspective that you would like to share, you can come on. I will be mindful to do that next week because I love to offer an opportunity, especially to our faithful participants who are here with us during the live broadcast, offering you an opportunity to come on and share perspective on any of the stories if you would like. If there's topics that you would like to introduce, you can reach out to me at harvest1971@gmail.com or the check-in live at gmail.com. Is a better place if it's something related directly to this show. But if you're just trying to reach me, harvest1971@gmail.com. If you have an event coming up that you would like for us to talk about, please let us know. Currently, we are pushing December. Our neighbor, Sonia, who comes on with us a lot, War Room Warriors Worldwide Prayer Ministry has an intercessors conference coming up in December. If you love to pray, want to learn how to pray, want to learn more about prayer, want to dig deeper into your prayer life, I encourage you to check our page. We do have registration information for that conference. We'll be featuring Apostle Sophia Terrell out of Philadelphia and Bishop Terrence Coleman here in St. Louis. Be looking out for information on that. We'll have speakers, those main speakers on those nights, but on Saturday we'll have some workshops that will be headed by Prophetess Katriana Baker out of Texas, who just released a book. Hopefully we'll get a chance to, as soon as I'm able to get my copy, we'll be talking with her about some of the things in the book with Prophetess Shanetta Hamilton out of Atlanta, Georgia, and Pastor Demetrius Whitehead out of Florida. Tallahassee. He from Florida, y'all. He comes on all the time. Y'all know Pastor Demetrius. But he'll be one of the workshop headers as well. Keep your eyes out also for Reach One, Teach One TV. That is his channel where he does his teachings on end times. Also, Apostle John Eckhart, if you're in the St. Louis area, Apostle John Eckhart will be in town at the Advancing Church on November the 5th, I believe it is. If you've ever been exposed to Apostle Eckhart's ministry, the prophetic worship is off the chain. So he will be in the area November 5th, but we'll be talking about that some more later on. Look, we have service every Wednesday and Saturday at Cathedral of Yeshua Worship Center, 303 West 4th Street in Cahokia, where Apostle Carl Bargany is pastor overseer. And it's definitely always in the middle of a powerful series that'll give you some information that'll be a blessing including some life lessons for you and your family as we navigate these seasons that we're in now. How do we stay on point and on purpose, getting to our destiny? Um, you need good spiritual teaching. You need good direction. So, encourage you there. But a lot going on, a lot coming up. Minister Clemisha, as always, thank you so much for holding down the comment section. I appreciate you because you always do such an excellent job with keeping the conversation moving forward. I appreciate you, sis. Have a good night, everybody, and we will see you all next week. Thank you for watching the check-in. We'll talk to you later. Bye.